Welcome to Elected. I'm your host, Luke Radel. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina has announced that he will be introducing a bill that would restrict abortions after 15 weeks nationwide, with exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Here's what Graham had to say about the bill.
Here's what I think. I think we should have a law at the federal level that would say after 15 weeks, no abortion on demand, except in cases of rape, incest, to save the life of the mother. And that should be where America's at. If we take back the House and the Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on our bill.
Let's begin by looking at the actual contents of the bill, because in a vacuum, this legislation could be seen by some as a smart political move and a good piece of public policy. The actual proposals in the bill would seem to have broad popular support. Polling from Gallup taken in early May shows that the views of Americans on the issue of whether abortion should be legal evolve as the pregnancy progresses. In the first 3 months of the pregnancy, 67% believe that abortion should be legal, while just 27% believe it should be illegal. But in the next 3 months of the pregnancy, those numbers flip, with 36% of Americans saying it should be legal, while 55% say it should be illegal. Even fewer Americans believe that abortion should be legal in the final 3 months of the pregnancy, at a 20 to 71 legal to illegal margin. Additionally, as Graham pointed out during his press conference, this bill would put the U.S. in line with the rest of the Western world, with most countries in Europe having restrictions on abortion past the 12 to 14-week mark. However, the optics and timing of this proposal could not be worse for Republicans, with Democrats and the media jumping on top of the bill and calling it a nationwide abortion ban, which is technically true, but only in the most literal and void of context sense imaginable. If I was a fact checker for the Washington Post, I'd probably toss this one a couple of Pinocchios and say that it's very misleading. Almost as misleading as someone telling me that there's a new live-action Pinocchio with Tom Hanks. There's no way that's real. This bill does not ban all abortions nationwide. In fact, it doesn't even ban most abortions nationwide. According to the CDC, 92.7% of abortions occur in the first 13 weeks of the pregnancy, leaving just about 7% of abortions being subject to this bill. And under any other circumstance, if you called something a nationwide ban when it only restricted a single-digit percentage of it, it would be ridiculous. It would be like calling a strainer a pot. I kind of feel like it lets too much stuff through in order to be called that anymore. Look, we're having this conversation in reality right now, which is a silly thing to do because so many of our political conversations don't happen there. So in order to talk about this in the right way, we must enter...
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House! Ah!
Please clap.
The ultimate hellscape. Politics in America.
To do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
Welcome, my friends, to the ultimate hellscape, sponsored by Oneida County Executive Anthony Picenti. Now, out in the real world, the contents of Lindsey Graham's bill might have broad public support and demonstrate a willingness to form a bipartisan compromise on an important issue, but here in the hellscape, of course, it didn't do any of that. This proposal has actually caused a firestorm across the political spectrum, but let's start with the Democrats, who were practically gleeful about the optics behind Graham's announcement. It gives congressional candidates like Pat Ryan, who are already banging that federal abortion ban drum, a name, face, and clip to go along with it. It distracts voters and the media from the disastrous economic numbers that were announced as Joe Biden was in the Rose Garden celebrating his so-called Inflation Reduction Act, and it divides Republicans on a hot-button issue just weeks before the midterms. This is how Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York spoke about it at the White House on Tuesday.
While MAGA Republicans are fixated on their extremist agenda like a national abortion ban, Democrats are focused on creating jobs, lowering costs, and bringing the country together.
Hey, that's not fair, Chuck. Republicans are great at bringing people together. They even invited them all down to the Capitol. Only here in the hellscape could the Democratic leader of the Senate say that his party is about lowering prices when prices are actually at a 40-year high while his party is in control of Congress and the White House. But all of the attention that could have been paid to those terrible economic numbers for the Democrats is now being paid to how the Republicans want to ban abortion nationwide. But you know who says they don't want to do that? Senate Republicans.
With regard to his bill, you'll have to ask him about it. In terms of scheduling,
I think most of the members of my conference prefer that this be dealt with at the state level.
I think the far better approach is the legislation that Tim Kaine, Lisa Murkowski, Kirsten Sinema, and I have introduced.
Support the fact that you've got we the people can decide this in 50 states, okay?
Decisions concerning the hotly contested question of abortion go to elected legislatures. That's going to be principally decided at the state levels.
I think that we need to be codifying Roe and not turn it back the clock 50 years.
Wow, I have not seen a group of senators treat someone that badly since Julius Caesar.
Huge nerd.
This looks really bad for Lindsey Graham. I mean, basically everyone in the Senate has now come out and said that they would oppose this federal restriction on abortion. Except for, obviously, Lindsey Graham. You know, he can't come out against his own idea. Right?
Before 1973, the law of the land was that each state can decide the issue of life, when life begins, whether or not to have an abortion, what circumstances around having an abortion. All of us in the conservative world have believed that there's nothing in the Constitution giving the federal government the right to regulate abortion.
Michael?
Why are you the way that you are?
Yes, we have now sunk to the level of the hellscape where everyone is just a raging, attention-seeking hypocrite. And Lindsey Graham might be one of the worst. On Donald Trump, he was at first a rabid anti-Trump Republican. And then during Trump's presidency, he was a close friend and ally to the president. And then he said this after the January 6th attack.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
Wow, what a principled stand for democracy in the face of, I'm sorry, what?
I understand that you played golf with President Trump and had dinner with him over the last few days. And I know also that Congressman Kevin McCarthy joined him for a meal or two. What's going on? What's happening with the president?
Well, his golf game is just incredible. He's busting his driver, knocking the pins down with his iron, and playing like a wild man. I mean, I'm not joking. I've never seen him play this well. So I will be shocked if he doesn't run for president in 2024.
All right, fine. He may have had his ups and downs with Donald Trump, but at least he's always been a fiery opponent of Joe Biden. I'm sorry?
If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation. Because what's not to like? He's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics.
Is that right?
He is as good a man as God ever created.
Okay, but let's get back to the Supreme Court, the substantive issue at hand here. Now, back in 2020, when Justice Amy Coney Barrett was about to be nominated to the court just a few weeks before the election, Senator Lindsey Graham strongly supported her confirmation. And I'm sure that there aren't any of his words that we could use against him.
I want you to use my words against me. If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say, Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination, and you could use my words against me, and you'd be absolutely right.
All right, I've had enough. Get me out of this hellscape.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Now look, back here in reality, this bill is likely not going to go anywhere under a Democratic Senate or a Republican Senate. Now the Democratic Senate, for obvious reasons, but the Republicans have largely said, including Lindsey Graham up until a couple days ago, that this is an issue that should be left up to the states. So if this bill is not actually going to be passed into law, then it can only be seen as a political move. And as a political move, it might be even worse because Democrats are going to continue to use it to focus on the issue of abortion where they are stronger than Republicans right now. And Republicans are going to get distracted from the issues of the economy and inflation that they have been doing better on in order to defend their positions on abortion. So why did Lindsey Graham do this again? I'm sure there are many conspiracy theorists out there who are saying to themselves, this seems a little bit too fishy, that Lindsey Graham might be trying to sabotage his own party and kneecap them before these important midterm elections. I have a different view. I think that Lindsey Graham is just kind of bad at politics. Actually, strike that. He's really bad at politics. Thanks for watching. Elected.